Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Pal Over Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Imperium magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course drop us a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys and it goes a massive way to helping the channel too. Now, this week we're on issue 77 of Imperium magazine and we have our first part to the Necron Command Barge, or if you wanted to, you can make it the Annihilation Barge, or of course if you're buying two copies of this issue and the next issue, you can make both. Why not? Have a bit of fun. However, this brew is kind of useless on its own. It's you can make a couple of parts out of it ready if you want to. I personally won't until I have everything in hand because it'll just make life easier. But yeah, it's pretty good. We've got some pretty cool bits. So we have the war scythe from the good old Overlord. We have the legs from a pilot and gunner, and a couple of other plates. And yeah, not much more than that. It will come in very handy though. So make sure you keep it all to one side and keep it in reach, ready for next week. Moving into the pages though, obviously we are greeted by the Catacomb Command Barge. This is a mobile command platform, of course. The command barge allows a Necron Overlord to oversee the battlefield from a mobile vantage point and issue his orders accordingly. This of course allows him to reach in areas of the battlefield that require his influence and tactical expertise when they are needed, because he is quite a quick moving flying unit and he can just kind of go from one to the other. So pretty cool and pretty zippy, and makes him a little bit more useful in all honesty. The Overlord himself is equipped with a war scythe which is long enough to strike any foes with melee damage if they are too close and assaulting his command barge from up close. There is of course the Necron crew, which I've mentioned as well. These are hardwired Necrons, wired permanently into the vessel itself, so obviously because they are Necrons and that's the way they do things. So you have a pilot and you have a gunner, and then they do also have some ranged weapons as well, including things like the Gauss cannon, if you wish it to have a Gauss cannon. You can have a couple of other weapons, I believe, on there, if I remember rightly, but entirely up to you. But pretty damn cool unit, in all honesty. Another flying, shiny craft for the good old Necrons, so why not? Obviously, on the other page, you can do its usual battle record, name your Overlords, you can give it its barge designation, you can oversee victories, oversee melee destruction, and even ranged destruction as well. So why not? Bit of fun for you, adds a bit to your game, so keeps a bit of a record over what you're doing with that command barge. Then we move on. We have the Eldari Harlequins as part of the other factions from within the 41st Millennium. Now, the Harlequins, I must admit, are one of the funkiest looking factions within the 41st Millennium. They look a bit unique, they look very different, they're very bright, they're very colourful, which is a bit unusual for the grim dark science fiction that is Warhammer 40k. But of course, perhaps these are the least understood of many of Eldari factions. The Harlequins are capricious indeed, clad in vibrant bodysuits and wield lethal close-range weapons. They move with quicksilver speed, emerging from the webway without warning to slay the unwary before disappearing once more. Obviously they have a few more unique things about them as well. So they have the Solitaire, the Death Jester, they have these pretty cool masks that, in all honesty, there's a lot of things in real human history that kind of inspire different things within good old Warhammer 40k. So for instance, the kind of checkerboard pattern that the Eldari Harlequins use and their masks are very reminiscent to Venetian masks and that kind of renaissance of Italy and France, and they look a little bit cool like that. And they also have some pretty cool gnarly looking units as well, especially the Death Jester is probably one of my favourite Harlequin units that you can get, so pretty damn cool. Then we find out more information about one of the other war zones within the 41st Millennium, as per usual. So, and this is Obolis and Lyrak. So, some sectors of Imperial space are utterly pivotal to the survival of the Imperium. Forge World Metallica alone was responsible for producing arms for Imperial war efforts on hundreds of fronts. Thus, when the Obolis and Lyrak subsectors came under attack, the response was swift. So, these areas were under attack from enemies of the Imperium. If they had fallen, it would have really screwed up the Metallica system, and they had to do a lot of pushback. So obviously the response to these attacks was swift and devastating indeed. It does involve some kind of heroes and well-known names, including Typhus, host of the Destroyer Hive, and a few others as well. So pretty decent and worth reading as well if you want your history, your lore, and everything to do with 41st Millennium as well. Makes it a lot pretty cooler for you. Anyway, if you like your Warhammer fiction, though, there is another story in these pages as well. This is another one that goes on for 4 pages. This is The Last Laugh. In the shadow of a war world, Mordathea, towering bastion, Commissar Grack struggles to maintain discipline and order in the face of a vicious Xenos invasion. And this does include the Harlequins as well, which are pretty damn cool. And you get some nice little bits of artwork as well, which is always really nice. And probably my favourite bit with all of it. But yeah, they look pretty cool. The story is not too bad. I must admit, I kind of didn't mind it. It's an alright one. Then we move forward. We get another part of the history and heroes of the Space Wolves. And this is Nile, the Stormcaller, High Rune Priest. So, known to his kin as the Storm That Walks, Nile Stormcaller is a battle psyker with a deep understanding and mastery of the war. Where he fights, there does the Tempest rage fiercest. So, he is of course one of the High Rune Priests. Rune Priests obviously being part of the good old Space Wolves. They have a very Nordic kind of vibe behind the Space Wolves. So if you're unaware, they use runes and much more. So kind of like in Warhammer Fantasy, you think about the dwarves. The dwarves have a very Nordic kind of feel behind them, and very kind of Vikinglish kind of Viking-y type feel with all their runes craft, and the fact that they are part of the Eldar races as well. And the good old Space Wolves are very similar. They use runecraft and they utilise a lot of that type of stuff, and they have that kind of fierce kind of they are going to kick your head in type of feel to them. They are pretty cool. Then we get one of the others, Lucas the Trickster, the Jackal Wolf. So Lucas the Trickster is known by many titles, few of them complimentary. His deeds are representative of the wild recklessness of youth, yet many of them have been heroic indeed. So he is a bit reckless in a lot of ways, but he is part of the Space Wolves, and he is obviously a little bit kind of along the way. Think maybe as is a bit of a trickster, you'd think Loki from the good old Nordic myths and stuff like that. So, but yeah, pretty cool. Bit interesting as well. It's a bit more interesting finding about the Space Wolves, because I think they are one of the ones that you don't actually find out a lot more about them really. But they have some of the coolest kind of looks to them, with all them the fur cladding over their armour, which makes them look pretty damn good, in my opinion. Then you got your how to build the command barge. You're going to want to do this in sub-assemblies, so paint up different sections before sticking it all together, because otherwise it might be a bit of a pain in the backside. So for instance, doing your gunner and cope and pilot separately, your overlord separately, and then certain sections as well for the actual unit itself, all in separate parts, and it'll make it look pretty good. But generally pretty decent, fairly easy to get going with. You can do all your sub-assemblies, have a bit of fun with it, paint it all up before you stick it all together, so then you can make it life a lot easier, and you'll have a really cool unit at the end of it. So this is probably one of the bigger how to build sections from out of the entire range as well, so there's a lot to it, a lot of cool stuff, and yeah, it's genuinely one of the pretty coolest Necron models that we get in the whole magazine collection, in all honesty. But yeah, really good stuff, fairly easy to assemble, and yeah, have a bit of fun with it. But yeah, obviously there is more you can be done later on, so you can build up the Annihilation Barge if you want to, entirely up to you, but fairly simple. Then we move on, we have our battle for the week. 75 power, breach the tomb, choose your combatants however you want. 4 battle mats, quite a bit of space, it's going to require quite a bit as well, but really good stuff. You get additional objective markers as well, so you can have a lot more objectives on the field as opposed to the normal 5 or 6 that you'd normally have. So if you want, you can have up to 10. And this is what the idea is. Obviously, we're running up to the end of the original planned run of the magazine. So we have some really good stuff to look forward to. We have the second part of the Command Barge, and we also have Robute Guilliman as well coming out soon. But yeah, really, really good stuff. Obviously, with this issue, though, that's not all of it. We do have a pull-out section, so the part of a Rogue Trader pull-out section, so battle in the Ardis system and spoils of war. So we had some pretty cool stuff on here as well, giving us a bit more information, and battles for Lithis and much more. It's not too bad. It's pretty decent. If you're following the Rogue Trader section, it works out pretty well. But really, really good stuff. On to next week's issue, though, of course, we have the rest of that Command Barge. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple. You're not going to go wrong with it. And how to paint it as well if you want it, including its complete datasheet and tutorials. And obviously there'll be a new battle and a few more bits of information as well. So really good stuff. And then finally, issue 79 and 80 is Robute Guilliman part 1 and 2. How to build, how to paint, the history of Guilliman himself, the Rogue Trader's journal, and a few more bits and pieces in there. And then that's the end of the original run. Obviously, the magazine has been extended to 90 issues, so we have more to come. Lots of good stuff to look forward to. So things like the Paragon Warsuits from the Adeptus Sororitas. We have a Redempted Dreadnought. We have more Necrons. We have 2 more Necrons. We have some pretty cool other bits and pieces, including the Inquisitor. So yeah, really good stuff to look forward to. I'm genuinely looking forward to the last 10 issues because there's some really good stuff. And then of course we have Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine, which has come out last week. Issue 1 is available now up until next Wednesday. Do not miss out if you're into your Age of Sigmar or if you want to get into it. It is dirt cheap. It's like £3. Yeah, can't go wrong with it. And yeah, good times. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.